What's up, guys? Today I'm going to do the video that I said I was going to do yesterday, and that is on what I think are the Undertaker's top 5 best matches he ever had at Wrestlemania. And I'm going to do it in celebration of the Streak DVD coming out. Now, like I said, these are just my opinion, just my top 5 faves, So, if you disagree with them, it's just my opinion on them. I do have a couple of honorable mentions that didn't make my top 5. And the first one is Taker versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 18. And the reason it's an honorable mention is, Ric Flair being at that part of his career, being older, he's not like he once was. Obviously, you can tell he's, lost a step or two. But the Undertaker does a good job of trying to help him get back to what he was doing. And the fact that we get to see an appearance by Arn Anderson, who does the spine buster, is equally entertaining in that match. The next honorable mention is from WrestleMania 24, and it's versus Edge. Now, the only reason I don't have this in the top 5, because Edge is a hell of a wrestler, is because of the fact that they make Edge look weak. And what I mean is, having the Familia interfere in this match at Mania, the Edgeheads or whatever they are, interfere to try to help Edge win, makes Edge look weak. And it hurts me, it hurts the match, because Edge is a great wrestler. Edge is a guy that could have beat the Streak. He don't need backup to help him beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. He could have beat him, like he said, cutting the promos. He had never lost to the Undertaker. He didn't need the backup. To me, that's what hurt the match, was the Edgeheads coming down, whoever. They come down, they interfere, and it made Edge look weak, like Edge couldn't win something unless he had help. And to me that hurt that match, but it is a good match. The final honorable mention, WrestleMania 14 versus Kane. The Undertaker's never been good with big men. He's always needed a smaller guy. But this match is pretty good, because this is Kane when he was young. This is young Kane. When he was just as agile as the Undertaker. He didn't have the speed as the Undertaker, and he's never going to have the speed. But he pretty much dominates most of the whole match. Is Kane. That whole match is Kane, basically. Until near the final, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of it, it is Kane. And he's just as agile. And their high spots in the ring, and the story that they had set up behind it and how they done it, really makes that match. Now, time for my top 5 WrestleMania matches with the Undertaker. Number 5 is a tie between 2 matches. The first one is versus Psycho Sid at WrestleMania 13. This is when the Undertaker won the WWE title at WrestleMania, his first time winning the belt at WrestleMania. Psycho Sid at that time was just as agile, just as quick, and had the size and strength that the Undertaker had. He was Undertaker's equal in almost everything. And both men basically were cheered. Undertaker had a little bit more cheers in that match than Psycho Sid did, but neither one of them were really a face. They were what you call tweeners. Psycho Sid more than Taker at the time. But they tore the house down, and they both had great moves. Back then, at that part in the 90s, the Tombstone, hardly anybody kicked out of the Tombstone. At that time, there was almost very little people had done it. And Psycho Sid had the Last Rites Powerbomb. Hit it, it was over. And this was the main thing. Who was going to hit their finisher? If you hit the Last Rites, Psycho Sid's champion. Taker gets the Tombstone, that match is over. And that was always the thing. Whichever one of them hits the high impact move first wins the match. And Psycho Sid could match the Undertaker. And psychology and everything. And Psycho Sid even, I believe, is the first person to use the Tombstone piledriver in WrestleMania against the Undertaker. He hits him with the Tombstone, smiles, crosses it, and does that thing. and and then Taker kicks out, and then that's Psycho Sid playing mind games with the Undertaker. So and it's a real good match. The second one that's tied for number 5 is 10 years later at WrestleMania 23, when the Undertaker won his second title at WrestleMania versus Batista. This match is a 5-star match. Undertaker made Batista awesome. He absolutely just made Batista look better than Batista's ever done. And they tore the house down. That match should have been the main event, but they didn't make it the main event. And I think that kind of hurt that Mania, because that match was great. It should have been the main event because the fans were more into that match because of how Undertaker and Batista did going back and forth. Batista wasn't intimidated. Batista hit the power slam through the table, and at which point you thought, okay, he's going to win this. He's going to end the streak via count out. Taker makes it back in, and takes a lot of punishment. The spine buster, the Batista bomb, everything. And in the end, Taker ends up winning, but it goes 15-0. But that match just it elevated Batista to heights that Batista hadn't been. And then they had a great feud all the rest of that year. Number 4 is, and between number 4 and, I had a hard time with these two. But number 4, and mainly because it's a short match, is Randy versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. Taker goes 13-0. They go, this match really doesn't have one dominating person over another. They go back and forth, each one of them, trading shots back and forth. This is at the time when Orton was known to you younger people. Orton was the legend killer before he was the apex predator and the viper. This is when he was the legend killer. And this was the ultimate legend to vanquish. Who better, legend to kill than the WrestleMania legend? And they got a few high spots here and there. The highlight of the match for me, in which the one time I thought this is the end of the streak, is the choke slam countered into the RKO. I was like, streak's over. And then Taker kicks out, and you're like, my God. And then Orton follows it, and then Randy Orton follows it up with doing this, playing the mind game, getting ready to do the tombstone. Then Undertaker counters it and hits the tombstone and goes 13-0. We didn't need Bob Orton down there, but I'm not penalizing because he interfered because he didn't do much. But this is the match that catapulted Randy Orton. Orton did good in Evolution, but this is the match that made Randy Orton a star. Taker made him famous. As Undertaker used to say, I'll make you famous. He made Orton famous. And then they had a great feud for the whole rest of that year. And that made Orton a main eventer. The match at number 3, and like I said, I had a problem. I could switch these two out, but number 3, and the reason it's number 3 is it's versus Diesel at WrestleMania 12. And the reason it's Diesel match at 12 is because up until then, Undertaker had no-sold all the matches. All the matches and moves he'd no-sold in all the matches. He basically was supposed to feel pain. And this one is the first time where someone actually dominates the Undertaker through the whole match. Literally, Diesel dominates him. I don't remember too many times where Undertaker gets the upper hand except near the final, I think, 10 minutes of it. Taker's starting to come back, but Diesel's still able to almost beat him. With 2 jackknife powerbombs, Taker still gets up. And even after that, Undertaker chokeslams him and calls for the tombstone. Diesel still beats on him for a while before he's able to hit the tombstone. So, that match to me is better, is number 3 above Orton Taker at 21, just because of the fact that this is when Taker started getting better. His matches started being better. And because he was able to finally sell moves and be the Undertaker he is now. Number 2 is, and I don't have much problem with this, having watched all of Undertaker's Mania matches, is the one that just happened this year. At WrestleMania 28, the end of an era match with Triple H inside Hell in a Cell. They tore that place down. That joint, they tore it up. They told a tremendous story. They showed, in my mind, they showed the younger talent, you know, this is how you have a wrestling match. You know, that match, the fans, you know, were into that match more than they, I think, thought they would be. And to me, once that match happened, nobody cared about Roxana. You know, because everybody's like, hey, and I know, you know, most people got and walked out and left after that match. Roxana, you know, was good, but that match was this generation's Steamboat Savage. You know, you build the big main event for a year, but this is the match that steals the show. And throw in Shawn Michaels, who's there with his best friend, plus somebody he has tremendous respect for, and the man that retired him, The Undertaker, and it added great drama, great storytelling, great wrestling. And also the fact that The Undertaker took probably 30 or 40 chair shots and got welts all up down the side of his back. And I'm surprised he's able to walk after that. And then finally, number one. Number one's no surprise. It's WrestleMania 25 versus Shawn Michaels. No surprise. This match is perfect. I mean, my goodness. They should have had this match years and years before, when they were both in their prime. Even after Shawn Michaels came back after being out 4 years with a back injury, you could have had this match take the place of the Mark Henry match at WrestleMania 22. This match could have took that place, you know, when they were a little bit younger and more in their prime. But still, this is probably the best match Undertaker's ever had at WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels pulled out all the stops, went into his bag of tricks, and you think about it, these two men have been wrestling their whole life almost. Shawn Michaels been doing it since he's 18. Undertaker's probably been doing it since about the same age. They know more about wrestling than we could ever hope to learn. And you got 50 years of experience combined in the ring, and they pull out everything. You sweet chin music, I think, 2 times. There's a last ride. There's Hell's Gate. There's the choke slam. There's the elbow drop. Taker goes for an elbow drop miss. Taker does the dive over the top rope. About breaks his neck. Kills poor Sim Snuka, who's the cameraman. Almost gets counted out. Shawn Michaels skins the cat. And the most amazing thing to me, you know, is when Shawn Michaels does the moonsault and Taker catches him. Now, I don't care if it was planned, and if Shawn Michaels was, you could see him looking back to make sure Taker was there. I don't care if that's planned or not. The fact that Taker has the strength enough to catch him, you know, and be able to plan it just right to where he can catch him without hurting himself is amazing. And then he hits the tombstone. That match is wow. You know, both men brought out the best in each other, and it made for, to me, The Undertaker's greatest WrestleMania match. That right there, that's my list, my top 5. What I think is Undertaker's best Mania matches. You know, those 6 matches, 2 of them which are of course tied, but those are my picks. You know, I don't think of any match. If there's a match that, you know, I may have missed that he was probably better in than one of the ones I mentioned, you know, please let me know. I want to hear what you think your top 5 is. Do you agree with my top 5? Do you disagree? I think most people, not everybody, I can't speak for everybody, but I'll say pretty much most people would pretty much be in agreement of the top 2. The top 2, pretty much everybody would be in agreement, yeah, those top 2 are the best ones. If not, let me know. What do you think are Undertaker's best matches at WrestleMania? You know, what ones would you have had in the top 5? You know, to me, all of them except the top 2 are interchangeable. You can change them any of them out. But let me hear, you know, let me hear you. I want to hear you what you think your top 5 are. You know, what do you think of my list? Do you disagree with it? What would you change differently? Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.